Welcome back to Cleaning Business TV. We are so glad you joined us. I'm David Luke, Vice President for Operations for Two Maids and a Mop. And to my right is
Ron Holt, CEO and founder of Two Maids and a Mop, also the better looking of the two.
I don't know about that. How to recruit the best employees for your maid service. That's what we're going to be talking about today. How do you get the best people in your maid service? Ron? How do you do it?
I'm glad you asked.
Well, good.
Just a funny question. I've got tons of answers for you. I have been there. I have basically hoped and prayed for someone to walk in. I have shook hands. I've begged. I've done everything it took, in the early days at least, to hire people, the right people. So let's kind of back up and talk about what has not worked for us, and what a lot of people in our industry do still today. The internet's surging. You know, more and more people are on the internet. More and more people are using mobile devices. So as a result, classified ads on the internet are becoming more and more popular. Everybody knows, you know, the power behind Craigslist. But
classified ads in the newspaper definitely work, right?
Absolutely. And what's better is they're really expensive.
No, that is good.
The more you pay, the better, always. But whether it's online or offline classified ads, obviously they're going to generate some type of interest, but for us, they've really caused some problems for us because they've generated a lot of traffic, but in some cases that traffic wasn't necessarily the best thing in the world. We've used traditional job placement boards, Monster, Career Builder. By the way, Monster and Career Builder, if you want to give us anything for send your name, feel free to email us.
That's right. Donations can be made. Sure.
Yeah. But and there's a dozen other ones out there, and probably then some of people you can use. Now those are not free by any stretch. They are definitely costly. But they do generate traffic for you. In the old days, I had this green Ford Ranger. My wife said, when we got married, she said, "Get rid of that thing. That is ugly." I loved it. If you're two guys here, you got to have a truck as a guy. And now I don't, and things are different. But she said, "Get rid of that thing." So I got rid of it. But the one thing it really provided, the one service it provided for a very long time, was a moving advertisement for my business, and not for new customers, but for new employees. I actually had a magnet on the very back that said, "Call this number if you're interested in working for Two Maids and a Mop," and it generated some business. It was just a different take on how to.
You were always hiring back then.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you know, we could go on and on. Nobody wants to hear more and more life lessons from Ron and how we got started at Two Maids and a Mop. But we have identified three, and I'm sure there's more, but for us, three different ways to actually hire the right kind of people for your organization. And David, again, this is really a big time strength for David, and one of the big reasons we brought him in was to help us identify and implement these strategies. So David's going to talk to you a little bit about each of those three different strategies and how to use them inside your own cleaning business.
Yeah, we're going to go through that, and I want to tell you that even with your business, with your service, with your cleaning industry, you're going to need to get business. But the funny thing is, when it comes to employees, more important than getting new business is actually keeping the business that you have. Since we're in a trust industry, you have got to get good employees. That is extremely important. You've got to get employees that you trust. You've got to get employees that are motivated. You've got to get them that actually want to do the job. Now that's easy, right? Employees just are terribly easy to find. But we have got good recruiting methods, and that's the first step, really. Recruiting is the first step in getting great employees. Step one. Recruiting comes from employee referrals. That's really where you want to start first in recruiting. You want to ask your employees that you currently have, do they have any friends? Do they have people that they know and are associated with that would like to work in your business? The second is employee shopping. I love this one. The reason I love this one is because when I'm out at a restaurant, when I'm ever talking with anybody and they provide me with good service, guess what? I tell them about my business. I tell them about Two Maids and a Mop. Hey, have you ever heard about Two Maids and a Mop? We'd love to have you. I'm always out there employee shopping, trying to find that next person that's going to be great at service.
I know that gets weird sometimes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Right. They think an old guy and they're like, why are you talking to me? But employee shopping, employee referrals, internet recruiting is another great way to do it, which is what we do that a lot to recruit good employees. Now, I want you to understand there are recruiting methods to do, and then there's also recruiting methods to avoid. What are some of those?
Well, the ones we're going to talk to you about today are going to be things that other businesses, other industries may actually approve.
Sure.
But in our experience, in our history, these things have really not been that effective for us, and in some cases, they're extremely costly. Offline recruiting, we made reference to classified ads in a newspaper and made the joke of the cost, but offline recruiting, for the most part, and I apologize to all my newspaper buddies, it's dead. And it's just, we started our business using that with, again, this was 2003, so that was somewhat popular at the time. And it's still popular today. I mean, everybody knows the Sunday paper has all the help wanted ads, but in our line of business, it's just not effective. It generates a lot of traffic. A lot of times the traffic is not real directed in terms of long-term potential with your company. And most importantly, the return on your investment is not there. It's just so costly. And it costs, at one point we did a study how much it cost us to hire one person. And when we went online with our recruiting methods, the cost or the return on the investment was much higher. Job fairs, that's another area you can look at, and we have utilized in the past. But again, very expensive. It's not always very conducive and friendly to our industry. So I would advise against those things, even though you're going to have a lot of people tell you that they do work. Because again, people confuse traffic with success. Just because you're getting a lot of people applying doesn't always mean you're going to get a lot of qualified people working for your company. And then in the old days, we were so desperate for just a person to work for us. We used labor agencies, staffing agencies, whatever you want to call them. And I can tell you, they're going to promise the world to you. They're going to say, yeah, we're going to get people to you. They're going to be trained. They're going to be qualified. And they're going to be ready to go, and it's going to be completely turnkey. And maybe there are people out there that do that, but in our experience, we have yet to find that perfect staffing agency to work for us. We want to recruit our own people,
right.
And it's very difficult to do that when you have a third party involved.
Sure. The second thing, after recruiting, then you have to go through a selection process. You've gotten this pool of candidates to come, they've come, now you've got to select the right person, and that's the second process, is selecting. And we do that through initial candidate survey. We actually email our candidates a short survey, and it's basically broken down in the questions we need them to answer correctly, basically. So if they say, I can't even think of the questions now, but if they say something like, I don't want to work at all, I only want to work 1 hour a day, okay, you're going to get bumped out. There's some initial screening that can be done right off the bat. That initial candidate survey is something we do. Telephone screening.
I love the first question we always ask, though, and it's very important, and David and I personally created this question, is, do you love the Georgia Bulldogs?
Right. They need to love the Georgia Bulldogs.
To. Yeah, no matter what state you're in this country, you must love the Georgia Bulldogs because these guys love them.
That is
Just
true.
kidding.
We do. We send out that email. Second, that we do a telephone screening also. You have got to encourage people on that telephone interview. You've got to talk to them, build up your business. Because over the phone, it's funny, over the phone people can say, oh, sure, I love it. Sounds great. And you don't know what they're doing over the phone on the other end of that line, but you need to find out. You need to find out if they've got a good presence on the phone. But also, a part of that telephone interview, if they're the right kind of person and they're who you want, you have got to actually encourage them to show up. This one blows my mind. It's somebody that's submitted a resume, or somebody that's submitted an application, somebody that's gone through the initial survey, and now they've come to the telephone interview, and you think, okay, they really want a job. All I've got to do is talk to them and then offer them a Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and they're going to show up. The funny thing is, that is not the case. You actually, in the cleaning business, you have got to sell your business enough to encourage those people to show up. And I'm going to tell you, showing up is half the battle.
So to give you a real quick rundown, when we talk about the telephone interview process or stage of our recruitment process, not only do you have to be encouraging, but you have to know what you're going to be saying. We have our own scripts for every call that we make with a potential employee. So we have a scripted text we have, but we also make sure that whenever that person's on the phone, that they know they have to be selling. We always talk about customers and selling, but really it's just as important with these new employees, because there's a lot of jobs out there to be had. So it's very important for you to have that enthusiasm as if it's the first time you've ever done this. For us, a great example is what we're doing today. I forgot what episode we're on now, but the very first time we did this, we were extremely excited. But as time has went on, David's gotten more and more bored, and I've really had to prop him up.
No!
But my enthusiasm is actually bringing this all together.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So after the telephone stage, what are you going to do next, David?
Well, if you've selected the right person and this is somebody that you really want and you've encouraged them to actually show up, then you have a face-to-face interview. Now, in this stage, you have got to be as objective as possible instead of subjective. Now, that's something we all do. Every person that I know struggles with this one, because as soon as that person walks in the door, what do you and I do? We instantly make a judgment right off the bat, yes or no. Now, they either have to talk us into the job if we've decided they're a no, or they have to talk us out of the job if they've talked us into a yes. But you have to remain as objective as possible. Now, as Ron said, we have a script for the telephone interview. We also have a script for the face-to-face interview, because you do not, let me repeat, you do not, in the selecting process, you do not want to ask questions that are, one, illegal to even ask. You can't, are you pregnant? Are you smoking right now? You can't ask certain things in the interview, and that's how we do it. We script out every one of the questions that we ask, so it is not as subjective and it is an objective questionnaire. And that is, surprisingly, it is very important to make sure you get an objective read of that person during the face-to-face interview.
So 3 steps to that stage. The final phase of our hiring process starts with the verification of the employee.
Verifying. And people, the funny thing is, in verifying, this is a step that gets avoided at times, right? You've interviewed them on the phone, you've interviewed them face-to-face, and personally, individually, you think, I've got a good assessment. And that's what everybody watching this today is going to think of themselves, because I think it also. I think, you know what, I'm a great read of people. I don't need anybody else. I don't need anybody else to tell me how good or bad of an employee this is. So when you're verifying, you have got to check the references of that employee. You've got to call them up. You've got to hear what other people have to say, because I have found so many different things of employees when I've interviewed them and thought they were great, but after checking the reference, I found stuff that I would have never found any other way. Like, well, they don't really show up all the time. Oh, they talk a good game, but they're going to be late about 3 or 4 days a week. I would have never known that if I didn't check the references.
A key question is, would you rehire this person?
Oh, I love that one. That's right.
That's a yes or no, and it tells you everything.
Sure. The other, background check. You're going to need to check the references, and once you've decided, okay, this is a person that I want to verify, make sure you do a background check on them. If you're in the cleaning industry, you have got to do a background check on every employee. And why is that so important? Why is that important? Because you have to have your employees licensed, insured and bonded. Without that background check, if you have not done your due diligence, you could have employees that aren't bondable, that aren't insurable, as that were. Now, for background checks, there's a bunch of different options, right? There's
all over the place, from almost free to very expensive, and in some cases, very, very quick, sometimes several days. They're all over the place. So we always like to say not all background checks are created equal. For us, and again, every business is different, but for us, we prefer to go the full route. We don't want the instant background checks that you can get on the internet within just a few minutes. So our background checks do take several days, because that means someone's on the ground at the local courthouse or county or whatever it might be, and they're actually physically checking records for these people we're hiring, and in some cases it's not cheap. We spend anywhere from $30 to $75 for every candidate that we're interviewing. But they're absolutely essential. There's some legal reasons behind it, because the bond has to be in place in order for us to clean a house, and in order to have a bondable employee, you've got to have someone that's free of any kind of criminal charges. And then there's some ethical things as well. You want to make sure that this person you're hiring is trustworthy. Consider every customer your mother. Would you send a stranger into your mother's home? So obviously you want to make sure that if every customer is going to be treated as if it's your mother, hey mom, then the background of that person has to be reviewed and verified.
Right. We are in a trust industry. In the maid service cleaning industry, we are in a trust industry, and it is of utmost importance that you do your due diligence to find those trustworthy employees. So the three things, they are.
I forgot.
The first is, what was the first?
Are you kidding me? Are we doing this now?
It's recruiting.
So recruiting,
yeah.
We're going to recruit people
Sure.
in a big way, and we then have to select.
Sure.
Sounds like a very generic thing, but selecting is its own process, and then three
is verifying.
Yeah. So recruiting, selecting, verifying. Sit back, really think about how your business wants to recruit, how your business wants to select that person, and then how you're going to verify that employee and create your own systems for that. And in the end, you're actually going to have a real process to hiring and recruiting and keeping the best employees. And of course, there's one other way that we've yet to mention that it would be crazy not to talk about. What's the other way you could do this?
I have no clue. What is it?
Purchase a Two Maids and a Mop
Oh,
franchise.
that's right.
Yes.
And we can do that for you. Oh my goodness. Not that we're selling a Two Maids and a Mop franchise, by the way. But.
All right, so guys, fun again. Hopefully you've learned a lot, laughed a lot, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.